Good evening. This is the CBS Evening News. Dan Rather reporting. Terremoto, earthquake. How bad will the after effects get? Estimates of the death toll in the massive earthquake that shocked Mexico range now from the hundreds to 3,000. Those are only estimates. As stunned friends and family waited, hoping against hope for word from victims still trapped in the Mexico City rubble, concern grew about ships missing from seas near the earthquake's epicenter in the Pacific Ocean. Our coverage begins from Los Angeles with Terry Drinkwater.
Some say 3,000 may have been killed, and tonight the death toll continues to rise. Fires burn in many parts of the devastated city, claiming still more lives. In hospitals throughout the disaster area, many of the severely injured are dying. Crying children and men and women wander through the streets searching for their loved ones. In all, more than 250 major buildings, some of them skyscrapers, collapsed. And untold smaller structures, homes and apartments, literally were shaken from their foundations. Thousands of additional buildings were damaged. The number of Americans killed or injured is unknown, but so far there have been no confirmed reports of casualties among tourists from the United States. Many of them have flocked to the U.S. Embassy to send messages back home over the radio. Thousands of visitors and Mexicans have crowded into the airport waiting for flights north or to other safe parts of Mexico. At the center of the quake, just off the coast from Acapulco, 5 merchant ships and 4 fishing trawlers are reported missing tonight. At the time the quake struck, other sailors in the area reported waves 65 feet high. The city of Acapulco and other urban centers near it did not sustain the major damage first feared. The very worst of the 7.8 quake hit the heart of Mexico, Mexico City itself. Seismologists today analyzed why the effects of the quake were so catastrophic. Mexico City, they agreed, was more vulnerable to this disaster than any other major city in the hemisphere. That's because this megalopolis was built on top of a series of lake beds, most of them dry now, but there are underground lakes with water in them too. And the movement of any quake, and this was a major quake, is amplified many times. The motion intensifies and lasts longer.
It would make the shaking stronger than it would normally be on hard rock. Shaking the rock underneath the lake bed is like shaking a bowl of Jell-O.
Many of the taller buildings that collapsed were built with prefabricated concrete. Others were of unreinforced brick and stone.
There are building codes that deal with earthquake problems in Mexico. The question will be why they were not effective. It may be the codes are satisfactory, but the practice of the building practice was not.
In Acapulco, near where the quake was centered, there was little damage because, say seismologists, that city is built on hard, rocky ground and the buildings are generally newer. The incredible force of the quake traveled more than 200 miles and focused with all its devastation on Mexico's capital itself. If a similar quake struck here, north of the border in California, would the disaster be as great? Perhaps not, say seismologists. Building codes here are more strict. High-rise steel construction more sophisticated. And many older buildings have been condemned and torn down or reinforced to make them safer.
The quality control is a problem all over the world. The United States has one of the highest standards.
Yet California, like Mexico, is crisscrossed with fault lines, and many are as overdue as the one which slipped in Mexico. And here, where people live with such an awareness of earthquakes, support for Mexico has been quick. But it's not just here. Chicago, Mexican-American neighborhoods gathering clothing. Miami, the Mexican consulate issuing visas.
I hope to find my children. I hope they are safe. I hope they're still healthy.
Dallas, there's relief when the first Mexicana flight comes in. And the emotional aftershocks of the earthquake go on and on. Terry Drinkwater, CBS News, Los Angeles.
President Reagan sent condolences and offers of aid to Mexican President Miguel de la Madrid, and while attention centered on Mexico City, correspondent David Dow reports damage was extensive in other parts of the nation.
The scars from the earthquake stretched more than 200 miles from Mexico City to a number of cities on the Pacific coast. In Lázaro Cárdenas, a city of 100,000, it was hard today to find a downtown building that had not suffered at least some damage.
Everybody was just terrified, trying to get into the outside.
The city's general hospital was largely in ruins, though here doctors spoke of a miracle. All 31 patients who had been hospitalized at the time of the earthquake were spared injury. Elsewhere in southwestern Mexico, there were reports of dozens dead and hundreds injured. Down the coast in the resort region, there was also destruction, though less severe. A young girl died in this house in Zihuatanejo. 8 cars were crushed, and several large hotels in Iztapa were damaged. The quake hit a couple of months before the main tourist season here, but that did not diminish the shock for hundreds of workers and guests who were inside hotels when the jolt came. They escaped scared.
You know, I've never felt anything this intense before.
At the discos in Acapulco last night, there was cause for celebration. This city, a favorite of U.S. tourists, escaped virtually without a scratch, an oasis from suffering in a region still reeling from its wounds. David Dow, CBS News, Lázaro Cárdenas.
Not only money and medical supplies, but trained dogs are being offered to help Mexico today. But Jerry Bowen reports there is no immediate relief for the suffering.
More than anything, the rescue workers were looking for miracles today, digging from the top down at apartment buildings at the corner bank in search of survivors. 8-year-old Hilda Mendez is a small miracle. She was just about to go to her 3-story school when it became a 1-story school. No one hurt there. On Gold Street, the neighborhood women were shouting across their balconies that they felt born again after facing death.
You're waiting for the end of your life. That's what you feel.
Over on Yucatan Avenue, Fernando Silva rode the arm of a crane to the top of a collapsed apartment building to search and listen for anyone still alive. Celestia Gonzalez, 16-year-old niece, is trapped in there. The Red Cross worker with the makeshift stretcher thinks she may be alive. Francia Casas doubts it. Francia was pulled from the rubble 24 hours ago.
We are missing 7 people from our building. But I'm sure they are all dead.
In some neighborhoods, a bucket or two of fresh water was a miracle. At this home, the Virgin Mary was credited with saving the family. And the men atop this building have no words for their miracle. A matter of inches was the difference between life and death here.
It's rather unbelievable that anybody could survive this.
But slowly, painfully, amazingly, survivors are being found in the rubble that only yesterday was a home or a business. There is no way to explain it, of course, no logic. There is only hope. Jerry Bowen, CBS News, Mexico City.
Good morning. Aetna Life and Casualty knows that all employees are not all alike. That's why we pioneered flexible benefit plans for our clients. So instead of carbon copy life insurance, he can double his coverage at the group rate. Instead of Me Too Medical, she can raise her deductible and put the difference in dental. Instead of duplicating the husband's coverage, she can shift premiums into tax-deferred savings. Aetna, helping business respond to the changing face of America.
Aetna, we're glad we met you.
Here's the sound of a cold or allergy. Now listen to the new sound of relief. Dimetap was the #1 cold and allergy brand prescribed by doctors for over 20 years. Now Dimetap is available in new non-prescription formulas. 12-hour Dimetap Extend tabs relieve sneezing, stuffy runny nose, itchy eyes. 4-hour Dimetap Elixir does the same for children. Dimetap brings effective relief to you.
As first reported here last night by CBS News correspondent Rita Braver, a year after he won acquittal on cocaine conspiracy charges, John DeLorean today is again under indictment. This time it's a 15-count indictment by a federal grand jury in Detroit. The charges, among other things, that DeLorean diverted millions of dollars from his now bankrupt car company's research and development program for his personal use. That's the accusation. DeLorean's reaction today, I don't know anything about anything on this. Curtis Strong is the Philadelphia caterer whose drug trafficking trial centered on cocaine used by Major League Baseball players. Perhaps because of that, the trial had some of the drama of a tense ball game. Today, the jury brought in its verdict, and Harold Dow was there.
It took just under 10 hours for the jury of 9 women and 3 men to reach their verdict. Guilty on 11 of the 14 charges of selling cocaine to Major League Baseball players. The defendant, Curtis Strong, showed little emotion as Judge Gustav Diamond ordered him held for sentencing. Strong was not the only one facing a jail term today. His lawyer, Adam Renfro, was held in contempt of court and sentenced to 30 days for disobeying a court order. Renfro was released on his own recognizance. It was a cocaine trial with no direct evidence, only the word of 7 Major League Baseball players. Among them, Cincinnati Red Dave Parker, New York Met Keith Hernandez, and New York Yankee Dale Berra. They said they bought cocaine from Curtis Strong. Their testimony over the course of the 2-week-long trial was startling. Each player admitted that Strong was not the only source of their drugs and that their cocaine use had been extensive. The defense had argued throughout that granting immunity to these players amounted to unequal justice, that Strong was being made a scapegoat. But that argument failed with today's verdict.
The fact that they had immunity didn't change our opinion of their testimony.
They're not going to get rid of us that easy. And like Yogi Berra says, it ain't over until it's over.
I hope that the verdict and the facts in this case send a message to the youth of this country, especially about the dangers of cocaine.
Curtis Strong will be sentenced next month. The baseball players who testified here may have already suffered the punishment of humiliation and may have to face the baseball commissioner. But it will be the fans who decide what, if any, punishment is deserved by Major League Baseball. Harold Dow, CBS News, Pittsburgh.
There's a hot new music video out tonight from the First Lady of Rock and Roll, and as Leslie Stahl reports, when we say the First Lady, we mean the First Lady.
There aren't many women who can throw their 1-year-old dog a birthday party, give him a balloon, and still manage to look sophisticated. But whatever she does, Mrs. Reagan makes a statement of refinement, of elegance. But wait, what's this? Nancy Reagan doing rock and roll? Is it possible? Yes, says the White House. Nancy and her backup singers have made a rock video. It's part of her ongoing campaign to fight drug abuse.
It's an anti-drug rock video.
How does Mrs. Reagan rate as a real rock and roller?
On guts, I give her a 12. On voice, she's right up there with them.
She was singing, it wasn't another
voice. She was singing. She was, as they say, blowing the house down.
The tape will run on MTV and other music stations, all proceeds going to fight drug abuse. The White House says Mrs. Reagan wants to reach a young audience, and this seemed to be the answer. Other rock videos have far different messages from Mrs. Reagan's Stop the Madness. She faces some pretty stiff competition, even for a First Lady. But you never know what the public will like. Watch out, Madonna. Here comes Nancy. Leslie Stahl, CBS News, the White House.
President Reagan spent about an hour at Bethesda Naval Hospital today for his first post-operative checkup since colon cancer surgery. When it was over, the White House issued a short statement saying the doctors found all the test results normal and that Mr. Reagan had recovered 100% from his surgery. That brief statement did not say exactly what tests were given and whether this short statement would be in addition to or instead of the medical test results the White House had promised to make public sometime next week.
Hey, I'm here for your season kickoff.
Well, how can I help you?
See, I've got this lawn.
How big?
It's 100 yards long.
Well, we've got a full line of Honda lawnmowers, but I think you need a Honda lawn tractor.
And I've got outdoor lighting.
Well, I've got Honda generators, and if you're planting, you may need a Honda tiller.
I'll take one.
What will you be planting?
Quarterbacks.
The Honda season kickoff, September 14th through 22nd.
Some folks say the West and what it stands for is just about gone. But we're the beef people, and we're still here.
Bringing back the strays in the winter months and moving the herd to the best pastures in the spring. And working all night when you have to.
And when it's done, we expect the best.
WD brand beef. Naturally aged and delicious. Always U.S. choice quality beef. Uncompromised.
We're the beef people. Spirit, tradition, the best. Winn-Dixie.
As the scandal goes deeper, the finger of blame points higher. Correspondent David Adelman reports the heads of two key French officials rolled today, the head of French intelligence and the head of French defense. Both believed to know a lot more than they've told about the July bombing of the Greenpeace group's flagship that killed one person.
It's the biggest shakeup in France's military and intelligence establishment in years, the resignation of Defense Minister Charles Hernu, his replacement by a trusted confidant of President François Mitterrand. All this accompanied by the sacking of the director of French intelligence, Admiral Pierre Lacoste. Mitterrand's purge of the French military is a last-ditch effort to cut his losses in the Greenpeace scandal, but at considerable political risk.
There will be all sorts of people terribly bitter about what's happened, who will probably talk their heads off in the days to come.
Almost daily press revelations continue to implicate the French government in last summer's explosion on the Rainbow Warrior, which killed one man. At least 4 teams of French underwater warfare specialists have been identified, including the head of their special training center on Corsica. Intelligence Chief Lacoste himself reportedly was sacked for refusing to answer questions on his agency's role in the plot. All along, senior intelligence officials have insisted they were merely carrying out orders. There is growing evidence that the affair may be traced back to the presidential palace itself. On this day of bloodletting in the French military, the key question in the Greenpeace affair still remains unanswered. Who did order the sinking of the Rainbow Warrior? David Andelman, CBS News, Paris.
There were cheers and songs, family and supporters. 3 weeks after his arrest and detention, the leader of South Africa's biggest anti-apartheid group, the Reverend Alan Bosak, was released today on bail, but not before being formally charged with subversion and terrorism. He had been detained for trying to go ahead with a banned anti-apartheid protest march. He was formally charged for promoting economic and classroom boycotts and withdrawal of foreign investments in South Africa.
The amber waves of grain should disappear.
You gotta find a home of your own. You gotta sell the one you've outgrown. You gotta transfer to places unknown. Well, all you gotta do is pick up the phone. Put number 1 to work for you. People who get things done.
We find more first homes, move more people into bigger homes, and help more people on the move than any other real estate team.
Put number 1 to work for you. Century 21.
Look here. Fast relief that takes the burn out of heartburn. Ask for Maalox Plus. Nothing works faster. That's because Maalox, America's #1 antacid for excess acid and heartburn, plus simethicone to relieve painful gas pressure, are now combined in great-tasting Maalox Plus. Tablets and liquid, any way you want it. Maalox Plus takes the burn out of heartburn. Try Maalox Plus.
25 leaders of American agricultural organizations met today with President Reagan, defending his own foreign policies and holding firm against requests for what he considers to be too much immediate help. The president called for a, quote, long-term solution, not a Band-Aid approach to the farm economy, unquote. Agriculture Secretary Block said the president will veto any farm bill, again, quote, if it gets too far out of line. All that as the Senate braced for a battle over a 4-year farm bill with an estimated $45 billion price tag approved by the Senate Agriculture Committee. Meanwhile, the stage is being set today for a benefit aimed at some short-term aid to farmers. Frank Courier reports.
If the amber waves of grain should disappear.
In Georgia and all across the nation, Merle Haggard's Salute to the Farmer played today on hundreds of radio stations. In Iowa, farm supporters launched a tractorcade across the prairie. Destination, Champaign, Illinois, where the stage is going up for Sunday's huge country rock spectacle known as Farm Aid.
And it's going to be just 12 hours of party all day long.
In a rush to repeat the success of last July's Live Aid concert that benefited famine victims overseas, country singer-songwriter Willie Nelson has organized a concert to help financially troubled farmers.
From Waylon Jennings to Billy Joel, it's a unique...
The star-studded 14-hour event will feature more than 50 country rock acts. Televised by the Nashville Network.
How many?
6.
$605.
All 78,000 concert tickets sold out in less than 3 days.
Okay, you can send your check to USA for America.
Already, pledges are streaming into the toll-free Farm Aid phone banks in Nebraska. But skeptical farmers say the $50 million fundraising goal is barely enough to pay 1 day's interest on the nation's enormous farm debt.
What do you do with $50 million? Do you give it to the guy that's broke, or do you give it to the guy that is just about broke, or you give it to the guy that's going to make it farmer?
With such issues still unresolved, organizer Nelson wants the money earmarked for legal assistance, job placement programs, and direct cash payments to the neediest farmers.
I think the main thing we're going to do here is call attention to this problem. As far as distributing the money in a way to make everybody happy, I seriously doubt that.
No one pretends the Farm Aid concert will solve the farm credit crisis, but it may change a feeling, says one farmer, that nobody out there gives a damn. Frank Courier, CBS News, Champaign, Illinois.
Against the backdrop of farm problems, the U.S. government's so-called flash estimate today showed the nation's economy growing at its strongest pace of the year in the unfinished third quarter. But the report's 2.8% annual growth rate for the gross national product was far below the pickup earlier predicted by the Reagan administration. Remember last Friday's highly publicized Pentagon test of an anti-satellite weapon, the one that successfully blew an old satellite out of the sky? It turns out today the operation was a success, but the patient died. The Pentagon conceded today that the satellite it used for target practice was still providing useful information about the sun at the time it was zapped. The Pentagon now says the satellite was expected to fail totally at any time. That explanation today didn't soothe any of the scientists who were still monitoring the satellite's solar data. They call the Pentagon's action deplorable.
When your life changes, your needs change right along with it. One day you'll need help with insurance. Later, it might be investments or real estate or any combination. Sears set up the Sears Financial Network Center to give you a broad range of help with Dean Witter Investments, Coldwell Banker Real Estate, and Allstate Insurance. So stop in. Chances are the expert help for your changing life is right at Sears. The Sears Financial Network. Trust us to make it work for you.
The makers of Tylenol have recently made pain relief better with extra-strength caplets. Look. Caplets are specially designed. They're shaped and coated to make them especially easy to swallow. Extra-strength caplets, only from Tylenol.
Once man's feet walked free. In time, he developed shoes. Soon man developed athlete's foot. Egad. Today, there's Mycotin with Myconazole, a patented ingredient to cure athlete's foot. Mycotin, the end of the road for athlete's foot.
Young lady, what are you doing putting A1 steak sauce on your hamburger?
It's delicious.
In my day, A1 was for steak.
Oh, my dear Miss Pritchard, that's the idea. What is hamburger? Chopped ham, it's chopped steak. And what's better on steak than A1? A1 makes hamburgers taste like steak burgers.
It is rather tasty.
Yeah.
Sure. Its herbs and spices make hamburgers juicy and really tasty, like steak burgers.
As I always say, live and learn.
A1 makes hamburgers taste like steak burgers.
We live in the age of the global village, when all the world is united by an electronic bond. Our electronic web is fragile. Even though Mexico is our neighbor, communications right now are poor, and it will take time to measure the toll of that terrible earthquake. But just about anywhere is within reach today. As Steve Croft reports from the beautiful remote Ladakh region of India, there is no longer such a place as the land that time forgot.
It takes days to get here. 20 minutes just to find the place on a decent map. Welcome to Ladakh, 2 miles high and tucked behind a gable on the roof of the world. For centuries, the mountains kept enemies and ideas out, and life here unfolded to its own special rhythm. But civilization is creeping up the mountainside, screaming over the next ridge. Not even the Himalayas can save Ladakh from the latest onslaught. And besides, Ladakh doesn't want to be saved. This is what you find now on the roof of the world. A civilization that resisted the Chinese hordes, rejected Christianity, and survived a century of British rule unchanged, has succumbed in the space of 15 years to kung fu and chewing gum.
Why should it be kept unchanged? When the whole world is changing, so that should also change.
The largest immovable objects on the planet have been leveled by an irresistible force. Call it whatever you want, popular culture, Western technology, the forces of modernization. 20 years ago, most people in the town of Leh would have been hard-pressed to name a living American. Now they know lots of them.
Tina Turner, Cyndi Lauper.
Michael Jackson's music is not yet on every street corner, but his T-shirts are. The market where camel caravans traded cotton and silk and opium 40 years ago is now filled with jogging suits, disco jeans, and sneakers, all made in South Korea. There are many people here with sentimental yearnings for the past, who mourn the demise of Leh's peaceful majesty in the days when nature dictated the flow of life here. There's a name for those kind of people. They're called tourists.
Very expensive.
No, very cheap, sir.
Very expensive
Really?
shop, yeah.
Ladaki's never had much experience with money until recently. Now they can change dollars and Deutschmarks and handle most plastic. They're plugged into the international action, at least for 4 hours a day while the generator's running.
Money never really meant much in Ladakh, but now it does. People would like to have more money.
Buddhist monks accuse merchants of crass commercialization. The merchants accuse the monks of selling religious artifacts out the back door of the monastery. There's a message here. If your life's dream is to save up and in 15 years or so go off to some remote corner of the globe thinking you can escape it all, don't wait too long. Borrow the money and go now. Steve Croft, CBS News, Ladakh.
And that's the CBS Evening News for this Friday. Dan Rather reporting from New York. We'll see you here again Monday. Good night.
When a tornado destroyed their home and damaged their car, Albert and Marge Reenstra turned to Allstate.
Allstate Update, fast, fair claim service.
They just were wonderful. They came right up and they sat down with us and they discussed everything. They went over everything and put our minds at ease. We needed them, and they came through.
Allstate has proven they cared.
That's right.
You're in good hands with Allstate, a member of the Sears Financial Network.
It's important, you know. It's important that we have reliable supplies of energy to make electricity and keep America growing. But energy from other countries is unpredictable. It can be taken away. So we try to use energy resources found here in America. Plentiful resources like coal and nuclear energy. And we try to use all our energy sources efficiently. Coal and nuclear energy. That's homegrown energy for America.
Today is Judgment Day at Benihana. Master chefs were asked to create frozen entrees for your home as good as those for a restaurant. Each will judge the other's accomplishments. Restaurant classics, like Oriental chicken with mushrooms, Oriental vegetables with shrimp, Oriental broccoli and beef. Benihana frozen restaurant classics. We were either going to make them great, or we weren't going to make them at all.
Hi, I'm Kate Jackson, inviting you to turn to our friends at Channel 5 for Scarecrow and Mrs. King.
Monday nights at 7 on Channel 5.
Just ahead on Eyewitness News, these vans are standing still, and that's causing problems for some handicapped Nashvillians. And as people in our area wait for news from Mexico on the earthquake, ham radio operators are trying to pass messages along. We'll have those stories and more next on Eyewitness News.
Boy, I wish I could play with this.
Now you can at Walmart's Toy Fair. Play with all the newest fun-filled toys. And now save $3 on Kenner's Soft and Cuddly Hug-A-Bunch. Only $26.84. Hasbro's authentic Transformers are just $7.95.